Good morning and welcome home to the Monte Vista Unitarian Universalist congregation on this Memorial Day weekend and the final May Gray Sunday of 2023, as we'll get to look forward next month to June gloom. Hopefully, each of us will reflect on the nature and purpose of tomorrow's recognition of those who have died while defending the U.S. Constitution, and remember our first UUA principle of the inherent worth and dignity of every individual. Announcements, please read the community connections that come out on Thursday. All the good stuff is up there. Young adults meet today after the service, so does the Justice Committee, and join us Tuesdays for Taco Tuesday, our online Zoom fun time. So with that, Catherine, for you.
Thank you. And I'm Catherine Rowlee, for anybody who may not know, and I'm the lay leader today. So it's an exciting Sunday. So to begin our service, we sound our gong, or the bowl. We sound it 3 times. We sound it once for those who came before, for the Tongva people and other native peoples of this land who were the original stewards and caretakers of the earth here. We also honor our ancestors who founded this congregation and grew the beloved community that we're a part of now. We sound it once for those of us here and now, for our members, our friends, our visitors, our extended UU family, who we hold in our hearts as we grow this beloved community. We ring it once for those who will come, for those who will be sitting amongst us in the future, and who will call MVUUC their spiritual home in the days ahead. Our opening words are from our Lifting Our Voices, number 130. Come and find me. You won't have to look hard. Come to where the ocean touches the shore. Find me in the bright light promise of the morning waves. Look carefully at the bubbles breaking on the wet sand. There I am. Turn over a glistening rock, slippery with its cushion of seaweed. Here I am. Hear the gulls crying the news of the endless ocean. That is my news, my voice. Lie with me in the tall green marsh grass. See my footprints in the sand that you have walked upon. Do not say, I am lost, for you have found me. I am here. And our chalice, as we light our chalices, I'm going to ask Bridget, our speaker, who is part of our family, to come and light the chalices as I say the chalice lighting words. We come together as Unitarian Universalists, bound not by a creed or a mutual desire to please one or many gods. We are drawn together by a belief that how we are in this world, who we are together, matters. We light this chalice in the knowledge that love and not fear can change this world. And very good. We are on we're hoping for the miracle of the oil today, because I couldn't find any more oil to fill this chalice. So we'll see if we have our own miracle. We know if the light goes out, it's still lit in our hearts. And let us rise as you're willing and able, and we'll say our covenant together and then sing Spirit of Life, first in English and then in Spanish. Okay. Come on, I know it's cold. Okay. We affirm that love is the greatest purpose of this congregation. The search for truth is our constant star, and service is our prayer. We pledge our hearts, minds, and hands to the challenge injustice with courage, to find hope in times of fear, and to live out our Unitarian Universalist values every day as a beloved community. Thus do we covenant with each other and all that is sacred in life. Director of Lifespan Religious Education for A Story for All Ages. Robert Tidwell. Dun, 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 dun.
Good morning, everybody. Once there was a king who received a gift of 2 young, magnificent falcons. They were the most beautiful birds he had ever seen. He gave the precious birds to his head falconer to be trained. Months passed, and one day the head falconer informed the king that though one of the falcons was flying majestically, soaring high in the sky, the other bird had not moved from its branch since the day it had arrived. "I have never come across a bird as stubborn as this before," the falconer complained to the king. He went on to describe how the creature ignored, refused, and stubbornly lashed out at his every attempt. The king summoned healers and sorcerers from all of the land to tend to the falcon, but no one could make the bird fly. One day, a farmer was passing by the palace, and he heard about the stubborn falcon who wouldn't fly, and he asked if he could have a chance to try to get the bird to fly. Having tried everything else, the king was desperate, so he allowed the farmer to make an attempt to make the bird fly. And the next morning, the king stood on his balcony and was thrilled to see 2 magnificent falcons soaring high in the sky. He said to his court, "Please bring me the doer of this miracle." The court quickly located the farmer, who came and stood before the king. The king said, "I would like to know your secret. Tell me, how did you achieve what the most highly trained, intuitive, and wise men could not? How did you make the falcon fly?" With his head bowed, the farmer said to the king, "It was very easy, Your Highness. I simply cut the branch of the tree where the bird was sitting." We are all made to fly, but at times we sit on our branches, clinging to the things that are familiar to us and never attempting for change. The possibilities in this world are endless, but most of it remains undiscovered because we never attempt to go beyond our comfort zone. We conform to the familiar, the comfortable, and the mundane. We need to go outside of our comfort zone, destroy the branch of fear that we cling to, and free ourselves to the glory of flight. Thank you. And Riley, can you come and get the cellos, and you guys can sing us to our classroom?
Service for our Sunday offering. Our gifts to this congregation are what keeps it going. So let us come forward also with our gifts for the Beta Center, which we generously support, and let us bring our gifts up to our altar as we listen to Lily. So it's time we share our deep personal joys and concerns and stuff with each other. And there's nothing in our basket today. And at least as of a minute ago, there was nothing on Zoom either. So I know they're there. I could update you on my garden. They didn't take it down last week. And it was there because they got too busy to bring the stuff in and do it. And I figured out a way to convince them to maybe save it this week. I suddenly had an insight. So we'll see what happens. And I'm feeling pretty positive about it after my big heartbreak and breakup of trying to say goodbye to it. So the secret was in making it part of a work-study program. And I know that right now that we hold many things in our hearts that we haven't expressed. Says how life is, and especially lately. So this prayer, in the spirit of community in which we find strength and common purpose as we share or hold together our joys, our sorrows, our hopes, our dreams, we turn our hearts and minds towards one another in trust, giving love, seeking comfort, and celebrating together. We are a part of the web of life that makes us all one humanity, one with all the universe, one with all the moments of our lives. For those loved ones and events that we hold in our hearts this morning, and for those unspoken worries and concerns, we are truly grateful for the love and support of our time together, of our beloved community. And before we enter a time of meditation, I want to read I guess a little poem that I got from our UUA worship web in honor of Memorial Day. We don't want to ignore that. It's going to be Memorial Day tomorrow, and as long as we still have wars, I presume we'll have Memorial Day. So it's by Barbara Preskin. It's called The Morning Watch. Spirit of life, whom we have called by many names in thanksgiving and in anguish, bless the poets and those who mourn. Send peace for our soldiers who did not make the wars, but whose lives were consumed by them. Let strong trees grow above the graves far from home, breathe through the arms of their branches. The earth will swallow your tears while the dead sing, no more, never again, remember me. For the wounded ones and those who receive them back, let there be someone ready when the memories come, when the scars pull and the buried metal moves, and forgiveness for those of us who are not there, for our ignorance. And in us, veterans in a forest of 1,000 fallen promises, let new leaves of protest grow in our stumps. Give us courage to answer the cry of humanity's pain, and with our bare hands, out of full hearts, and with our intelligence. So let us enter into a time of personal, silent reflection together with a little very soft music from Lily. Our reading today, I'm not going to read all of it, but it's a little article I found on words that have come from the world of falconry. It's by Daniel Ganninger. It says, in case you didn't know it, falconry is hunting using a bird of prey such as a hawk or a falcon. And it says, for example, many of the sayings we commonly use today can be traced back to this form of hunting. It is an ancient practice dating back to 4,000 to 6,000 BC. And many of the words and phrases that are a part of the practice of falconry are a part of our language today. Here are some of them that I bet you never knew came from this source. Okay, the first one is fed up. We've all been fed up with someone or something at one point in our lives. But this term had its origins with a falcon who had eaten its fill of food. The hawk was fed up and unwilling to fly or hunt anymore for the falconer. It says we are often fed up with something that bothers us. We don't want to do something anymore. We're just not interested. I'm fed up with my job. Under your thumb. A falconer had to maintain a tight control of their bird, and this happened when they would hold the leash of the bird tightly under one thumb while the bird was perched on the hand. Today, it means having control over someone or in some way, and usually not in a good way. I have him right under my thumb, wrapped around your little finger. A falconer may have had a leash of the bird under their thumb, but to provide extra security, they would wrap the remaining strand around their little finger. You still do this? Yes. Okay. This way, if the bird somehow broke free, they would still be tethered to the falconer and would have been able to be brought back under control. Today, it's used to mean that someone has complete control over someone else and can get them to do their bidding in some way. Such as, I have my dad wrapped around my little finger. And no, it didn't derive from the police song, Wrapped Around Your Little Finger. But now we know where it came from. Hoodwinked. A falcon or a hawk has kept calm by using a small hood covering his eyes before the hunt or during transport. It was almost as if the hawk was getting tricked into calming themselves. The modern use is just that, getting tricked or fooled into doing something or being scammed in some way. I just got hoodwinked. Haggard. A haggard is a falcon that is caught in the wild as an adult. Since this type of bird was more difficult to train than one that is caught while young or taken directly from the nest, haggard came to mean wild or hard to tame. In modern terms, haggard morphed into meaning to describe someone who looks worn out or rough on the edges. That guy on the corner looks haggard. Waiting with bated breath. It was first used in Shakespeare's Merchant of Venice, but its origins are from falconry. When falcons want to bait from the block or fly away, they try to take off, but are held near their perch on their leash. They get short of breath doing so and have to wait for the falconer to release them, hence the term bated breath. Today it means, of course, listening while holding your breath, waiting for something to happen. He awaited her response with bated breath. The end of my tether. I don't use this one very much, but maybe some of you do. This saying goes along with bated breath. Actually, it usually occurred from the actions of a young, untrained falcon who had baited from their perch and was being secured by the tether. Not knowing what they were supposed to be doing, the young falcon might struggle against the tether. Of course, today, it means that your frustration level has peaked and you can't take it anymore. It's possible that at the end of my rope, I'm at the end of my rope. My kids have me at the end of my tether. Okay, how about this one? I didn't know this one at all. A boozer. Okay, these are so new to me, this history. A term from when a bird of prey drinks is called bowsing, and a bird that drinks a lot is called a boozer. Of course, the modern take on this term is someone who drinks a substantial amount of alcoholic drinks. That guy is quite a boozer. Another word is rouse. This verb was used to describe a falcon when a falcon would erect all the feathers on their body and shake them. And I guess they do that still, of course. It was part of the bird's grooming process. Today, this word means to awaken from a sleep or repose, or to stir up. She tried to rouse him from his nap. And the last one, it was really two, codger and caddy. Falcons are carried on a portable square perch called a cadge. The birds are carried on the cadge since multiple birds were used for the hunt. Think of it like a bench where the birds waited to get in the game. The word codger derived from the word cadger, or the people that carried the cadge. Cadgers were usually older falconeers who carried the birds on the cadge. Today it means an older person, usually someone that is eccentric or feisty. His uncle is a feisty codger. To take this term further, the word caddy may also have derived from this term, since the cadger gave specific falcons to the falconer based on what was needed. A caddy gives golf clubs to the golfer in a similar manner. That was all very new and interesting to me. I don't know about you guys. But now we have what we've all been waiting for. We have our guest. So I am, she did not send me her anything biography, so she's going to give her biography to you. But Bridget Maguire-Colton is Terry's daughter, and she is a past member of this congregation and a beautiful singer member of the choir. So let's welcome Bridget.
This microphone is, so if you can't hear me, please let me know.
Are you guys
Are
good?
you able to hear okay?
I think
All
you
good? All the way
might
back?
need to turn it
Is that
on.
bird gonna freak out if I approach?
No,
No.
I'm short, but I'm not that short. Also, as a trained voice actor, I know don't touch the mic, let the engineer do it. So yes, my name is Bridget Maguire-Colton. I attended this church when I was living down here. I am now in the Bay Area. I'm a voice actor and I'm also a master falconer, among other things that I do. And I've been a falconer for 18 to 19 years. Just a little bit, because people always ask how I got into it. I've been obsessed with birds since before I could speak. And when I realized sometime during my schooling that there was a license you could get to own and work with birds of prey, I said, I want to do that. I don't know how, but I'm going to do that. And so my mom was in for it from that day on. She knew her fridge would never not have something dead. So thankfully she allowed it. And I've had many birds through my 18, 19 years. And I've brought two, my current two, TK here. They're both Harris hawks. They're both male Harris hawks. Although Griffin is slightly larger, if you are able to come up and see him a little closer, you'll see that he is slightly larger than TK. But as far as I know, they're both males. Females are larger in most bird of prey species. Harris-hawks are special. They are the only raptors to live and hunt in a family group. In the wild, they will cooperatively hunt in the deserts of Arizona and New Mexico in order to take down larger prey, in order to help survive in the harsh environments of the deserts. So my hope in having these two Harris-hawks was that they would work together. Unfortunately, I got two personalities that did not gel. So they won't work together, but I like working them separately just the same. Griffin is behind me, behind the piano. He just roused there. That was a good example of rousing. And this is TK, who you will hear joining the conversation. He's just, this growly sound is just a happy talking sound. This is just him saying, yep, yep, I agree. Good thoughts, yes. So we've introduced you to falconry very thoroughly, actually. I thought I'd have to go into this whole thing and explain what falconry is, but you did it lovely. Great. And you introduced some of the terms that I may use through this. So I want to make something very clear at the outset. Nature is not kind. She is not gentle. She is. And she is balance. Life and death are all a part of nature. Everything eats or is eaten at some point. American poops too, but that's I planned for this, it's fine. I knew this was happening. Yeah. So, death is a part of the balance. And things that hunt are going to hunt. They don't hunt out of anger. They don't hunt out of fear, typically. They hunt to survive and to eat. And all creatures fit in nature, in their place. Living, being born, eating, dying. And the trick is maintaining the balance. And the difficult thing for us to grapple with is that man or woman, people, are the imbalance in nature. We bring an aspect into the world that maybe it wasn't prepared for. Through electricity, cars, all sorts of things. So as a hunter, my goal is to try to maintain the balance as best I can. Yes. So I try to never be cruel in the lives that I take to feed my birds or to feed my family. I give a good death whenever I can, a calm and meaningful death. I'm never greedy. I only take what I need to feed my birds, to feed my family. I never take more than I should, because I want to make sure to keep that balance in the place that I am. And I'm never wasteful. If I can absolutely help it, I will use every piece of what my birds hunt, or the lives that are given to keep my birds alive. There are rare cases when that cannot happen. Occasionally when an animal has been poisoned or is ill, I cannot, in good conscience, feed that to my bird or any other animal, and so it has to be disposed of properly. But to the best of my ability, everything gets used. And so in falconry, we are working so closely with these birds that share our lives, it's difficult not to anthropomorphize them, to see them as that other person, that other being that you have a relationship with. But I try very hard not to. But it's true, they have a personality, they have feelings of their own. They're not quite like ours. They're simpler and yet more complex. And yet, it's my job to try to understand what they're trying to tell me. Because as long as they live with me, it's my job to make their lives as comfortable and enjoyable as possible. Which is why it's always hard when someone comes to me and says, how? How can you have this bird, this wild thing, in captivity? And I try to make them understand that through my training, they can leave whenever they want. When we're out hunting, they are not tethered to anything. It is only the training and my faith that keeps them coming back to me. I have to trust that it's enough, because if I ever give them an unfair deal, they know, and they will say, and just head for the hills, because they know they can make it on their own. They don't need me. So I try to be a good partner to them, because they're wild. And the things I teach them really just allow me to be part of that process. I don't teach them to hunt. They know how to do that. They're born knowing how to do that. They may not be good at it in the beginning, but they know instinctively how to do it, what they need to do. They need to use their feet, grab their prey, and eat as quickly as possible so that something bigger doesn't come try to steal it. They know how to do that. The trick is realizing that this weird, furless creature is going to run around with them and maybe, just maybe, help them out. So I also teach them that I provide safety, because being a wild creature is inherently dangerous. And they know that if they come back to me, I can provide them a feeling of safety and comfort that they may not find out there. Now that doesn't work for every bird, trust me, but for these guys, they know even if the hunt goes wrong, the weather turns, they've got a roof and a warm meal with me. So that's helpful. And yet, for all the things I've taught these birds, they have taught me so much more. Yeah. They have taught me patience. Every new bird I work with gives me another level of patience, because it takes time to take a wild thing and convince it to expose the most vulnerable part of itself, the back of the neck, to bend down and take a piece of food from me. And that can take days, days where the bird is not eating, where I'm trying to convince it that this is a safe place, I'm not going to harm you, I'm actually going to feed you, but I need you to bend down and expose that part of yourself that is so vulnerable that no creature wants to expose, because that can mean death. But the moment that happens, that trust, that spark is built. And when I was first a falconer, that took quite a while. And that patience was hard won, because I would tell my mentors, they're not eating, they're not eating. It's been days, and he'd say, give it time. This bird will not allow itself to starve. It will understand, but you have to be patient. They've taught me good communication. You have to be clear when communicating with a bird that doesn't necessarily understand English. I'd like to believe he does, but when you're communicating with any animal, whether it's your dog, your cat, clear communication is what builds that relationship. And so they've taught me to be very clear and to not deceive, because they understand deception. They understand that if I pretend to have food in my glove and call them over and they don't get a reward, that's lying. And you've broken some of that trust. So it's important to communicate well. They have taught me humility. As I became a master falconer, so after 2 years as an apprentice, 5 years as a general falconer, I finally became a master falconer. And in California, that means you can have all sorts of different species, all sorts of different numbers of birds. And I was given a very young Cooper's hawk. And I know some of you will probably have seen Cooper's hawks around. They're very nervous, they're very intense, and they're very fast. And I raised this Cooper's hawk the best way I knew how. And I never really worked with a Cooper's hawk before. I worked with Harris hawks, red-tailed hawks, some American kestrels, some other falcons. And so I thought I knew how to do this. I asked for some advice for some friends, but I just took this on. And this bird got it in her head that she didn't trust me enough. She would come back to me. Well, we'd be out hunting, and the game would get up and run, a small cottontail or a quail or something. She'd fly out towards it about 20 feet, do a U-turn in the air, and come straight at my face. And talons first. That happened 3 or 4 times before I realized I had messed up. This bird didn't understand what I needed from her because of my mistakes. And so I decided, as hard as it was, that this bird needed to go back and be a wild bird because of the mistakes that had been made. She would do great as a hunter, just not with a person. And so I am completely humbled by the people who work with Cooper's hawks and sharp-shinned hawks, because they are a different type of falconry that I clearly was not prepared for. They've taught me teamwork. The Harris hawks are good team members usually, and they team very well with a human. And so I had to be a team player. And TK, who is, by the way, 15 years old, and I've had him for those 15 years.
How long do they live?
He could live to be 35 with any luck, so he's middle-aged, but he knows his stuff. We were out hunting, and he was on top of a big sage bush. This bush was probably 6 feet tall, so taller than me. And he started making a sound I had never heard before. This is part of that communication too, but it's not just one way. He started clucking, almost like a chicken or a quack like a duck. And I'm going, what are you trying to tell me with this new sound? And it took me far too long to realize he was trying to get me in position to flush a rabbit for him. He knew, because he had seen it, that rabbit was in the bush. But he knew also that he couldn't get to it because the bush was too thick and too tall. So he was quacking to tell me, here it is, you're a very bad hunter. But if you walk over here and kick this, then I will be the hunter, meaning him, and I will grab this rabbit for us, because you are such a bad hunter. So, in that way I have learned to be a good team member who also listens, even when I don't always understand the language. They've also taught me about grief and forgiveness in ways that I never knew. I was gifted a small Applemata falcon. They're a very fancy-looking falcon, also from the desert. And at the time, I was doing bird abatement, which means scaring away pigeons and pest birds using a hawk or a falcon. It's becoming much more prevalent. You're going to see this a lot more going forward, especially in farm fields, in urban areas. My friends are doing it in Los Angeles. And I was given this little Applemata named Bodhi to work with. And I made a mistake. and that mistake cost him his life. That was the hardest day in my entire falconry career. Because I knew without a doubt that my choice had led to that outcome. Nobody else's. But it took time to finally forgive myself and understand that we make mistakes. Nature makes mistakes. They're often deadly, or they lead to grievous injury, but if they don't, they lead to a life lesson. And hopefully that animal or person never makes that mistake again. And so I try to remember Bodhi whenever I make a decision involving my birds. Is this a smart decision? Is this going to be dangerous? Is this a good idea? Because their health and safety comes first. So even in coming to give this presentation, there are those thoughts in the back of my head. Is it a good idea? Is it a smart idea? Will the birds be safe? In setting up, just to set up, my concerns for setting Griffin back there were, I can see things that he might want to try to stand on top of, because they're above his head. That's their instinct, is to stand on something above their head. And so at first I set him on the floor, behind the piano, where nobody could see him but me. And he was so calm, and he told me, I'm okay, this is okay. So I thought, let me try this. And I set him on the stage, but I sat right next to him for the first few minutes to make sure that nothing went wrong. But his body language told me this was okay. He is so comfortable. He has pulled up a foot, which means they are absolutely 100% comfortable and have no concerns in the world. He's roused, he's preened. So you talk about someone preening, they're making themselves look nice. He preened. He's turning his head upside down because he's curious at what TK is doing. But he's not concerned at all. And so I have to forgive myself for the mistake I made and move forward from it. Also, I have to pay attention to those little things. The turn of a feather, the sharpness of a talon. These all affect the health and hunting ability of my birds. I've also learned that playfulness is natural. That is not anthropomorphizing to say an animal is being playful. Playfulness is a behavior that serves no real purpose other than the enjoyment of the activity. I have seen these birds fly around in the sky, wheel around. There's no game, there's no reason for it. They just do it because they love it. I've seen them play with sticks, not to build a nest, just to play with something. I've seen them pick up dead leaves on the ground and carry them around and do weird things, especially as young animals. They do this. So playfulness is absolutely natural. They've also given me a sense of belonging, not only with the birds, but with the other people I meet who are also falconers. They make me feel like I have a tribe of people who get me. And we learn from each other. And we congregate together, as many people do in churches. And above all, they have taught me faith. Not in a God or in a greater being, but in an animal who has every right to just leave, and who decides through training and trust that when that leash comes off, they will come back. I have to have faith every time I release my birds that I've done enough and that our relationship is strong enough and they'll come back to me. Thank you all so much.
That was just more wonderful than I could have ever imagined. Thank you, and I'm sure all of you feel the same way. It was so deep, beautiful. Oh, so our closing song is "We Celebrate the Web of Life," and if you would like to, feel free to stand and let us sing number 175 in the gray hymnal. So we would now extinguish our chalice. I will do it. You don't need to bring that unless you'd like to. Okay. So we extinguished the flame, which stayed lit, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we're together again. You see?
Didn't quite do it.
And our closing words are A Prayer to a Falcon by Travis Bowman. Great sky hunter, teach me patience as you drift on the thermals high above. Teach me timing as you dive with folded wings. Teach me accuracy as you strike with talons spread. Lend me your vision that I might see at great distances. Lend me your speed to capture that which I most desire. Lend me your grace that I might dance with each moment in life's headlong flight. Falcon, let us soar and spin and plummet as one in the sky of this existence. Falcon, I call on thee. And blessed be.